Okay, so we're going to continue with our cityscape, and we're going to be adding in some details. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in sidewalks. So we're going to first put in our curb. So we want to go to our 1 point and hold it. And we want to go very, very close to this bottom line. So it's just a little bit. We hold it right at the 1 point, and then we're going to pull a line. And see how that gave us the most narrow of lines, and that gave us a little bit of a curb. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So we go to our 1 point, we come over just a little ways, and we pull a line. And so we have a curb now on both sides. And now we're going to add in our sidewalk. So we're going to go to our 1 point, and we're going to go to whichever our buildings is the lowest. So this building is the lowest, so I'm going to line it up with the front of that building in the 1 point and pull a line. And now I have a curb on this side. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go to my 1 point, go to my building that is the lowest, and pull in a curb. Now we're going to put in the lines of the sidewalk, and that will make it look much more realistic. So I like to start with lining my ruler up literally with the bottom edge of my paper all the way across. I hold it, and then I'm going to pull a curb line on this side, and I'm going to pull one on this side. And you'll notice that I didn't go into this little bottom section, because here I want to take and pull a line straight down like I'm making an L. And see how that gives us a little bit of a curb look there. Now as I go up, the lines are going to get a little bit closer together. So I'm going to go up not the whole thickness of my ruler, I'm going to do a little bit less. I'm going to pull a line on this side, I pull a line on this side, and once again I do a vertical line on that. I'm going to go ahead and do my next one. I make sure that these are parallel to the tops and the bottoms of my paper. That's really important. I pull a line and pull a line. And as we go back, they're going to actually get a little bit closer together. And that will help to create the illusion. Always making sure that I'm parallel. And then I could cut it off at the very end or let my sidewalk go back into infinity. But if I wanted to erase it out, I could too. So now I have my buildings are on a city street. And let's put in some doorways. Let's work on these buildings a little bit. So I want my door to be about this tall. So I'm going to line up my 1 point, and I'm going to come into the front of this building and pull a line. But you'll notice that it's lined up with my 1 point because all diagonals have to be with the 1 point. And I put on the front edge of this building. Now I want to find the very middle of this. And then once I find the middle, I want to pull a vertical line, but it messes with your brain a little bit. So I go to that little dot. But then I look the whole length of my ruler with the whole edge of my paper to make sure I'm parallel. And once I know I'm parallel, then I take and I pull that line. And that gives me my doorway. And I could add in some doorknobs if I wanted to. Now there's different kinds of doors we could do. Let's do some a little bit different over here. So once again though, I line up with my 1 point. I come up to whatever height I want my door to be. I pull a line. Let's put it right in the middle again. We make sure we're parallel. I look at the whole length of my ruler, the whole length of the edge. I pull my line. And this time though, let's go ahead and pull in 2 more lines. So we're going to make a door that the openings are a little bit smaller. We can put in door handles. So there we have some double doors. And I can keep adding doors all the way back. It's important that as I go and do it though, that I line up with my 1 point, that I don't just start guessing. Okay, that part's really, really important. I really want to make sure as I do this, I line up the front of my buildings with the 1 point, and I don't want to start freehanding. I can't, also put doors just over on one side. So maybe I want this door to just be over there. Maybe on that one, I just want it to be there. So I go and I take and I put in my doors lined up with my 1 point on each of my buildings. And you can put different kinds of doors in depending on what you really like, what style you want. So now I have doors. Now, most buildings have signs in front of them, or they'll have murals on the edges, but let me teach you how to do a sign. And we're going to do a pet store. So I'm going to go back to my 1 point. Let me do it from this side. And I want to go a little ways above my door, and I'm going to pull in a line. So I'm going to be putting my sign into this spot right here. Now all of my vertical lines need to stay vertical. So the word pets, I'm going to start with this vertical line for my P, and then I'm going to go ahead and just do a curved line. Now I'm going to be putting in an E, so I want to make sure I do another vertical parallel line. Now my side lines need to line up with my 1 point. Now this one is already here for me. I can just follow the edge. And same with this one. I could just follow the top edge. But for the center of my E, I need to make sure I'm lined up with my 1 point. So I come where I want it to be, and I rotate till I'm in line with my 1 point. And now I know I have an E that's in 1 point perspective. And I can take and thicken things up if I want to. I can change things around. I can make my letters fancier. Now for my T, I'm going to use my ruler to make my vertical line. I'm going to make sure it's parallel. And the top of my T, I can just line it up with the top up there. So I've got a pet store right now. I could leave it as a pet store, but we're going to make pets. So for my S, I want, actually let's put in the top and the bottom of our S first. We know it's going to line up here and it's going to line up here. Okay, and so an S comes down this way. So if I want, I could use my ruler. And then continue to use my ruler using my 1 point perspective. See how I lined up the center of it with the 1 point, just like I did with the E. And then my last one is going to be lined up here. And now I have a pet store. I could add a mural onto the side of my building if I wanted to. Like, we know how to draw koi fish, don't we? We did that earlier in the year. So maybe I take and draw a koi fish. So if you wanted to add a mural onto your building, you could add on windows. If you did a window over here, it would just be a rectangle or rectangles, whatever you want. Let's say I just have one large window over on the side of this building. On the sides of your building, they can just be a regular rectangle. Oops. I slid down a little bit there. You make a mistake, you can always erase it out. You could leave your windows big and open, or you could take and put in lines, break your window up. You can make any kind of windows you want. You can personalize your buildings, make any kind of building you want. So I could continue adding different kinds of text and things into all of my buildings. I could easily add in some trees. So let's add in a big tree right here. So we're going to go in front of this building and we're going to make kind of just a squishy little circle shape. And then we're going to erase out the building line because it is now hidden behind our tree. You could take and add in some more. It'd be actually really nice to look up how to draw a tree online, and you can make a really, really nice tree. We've got the top of our tree. Now we're going to add in our trunk. We have to erase out the building line because it's now hidden by the tree trunk. I could add in some root structure if I wanted to. I could add in some grasses. And I now have a tree on the side of my building. I could tuck trees inside if I wanted to as well. I would come in. Now part of this tree would be hidden by this building. I would only be able to see the front part of this tree. So I would have to pretend as I drew there. I can make my tree shape. Then I would add in my trunk. Once again, I would need to erase out that bottom line. I have a tree between those buildings now. I could keep adding trees if I wanted to. Now I can also add in a background. I might want to add in some rolling hills. And if I did, I would start over here. But when I would get to things where there's buildings, I would just hop over. So like, ooh, I'm pretending now. I'm pretending to draw hills. Now you can see my hills. Oh, you can't see it now. Oh, and you can see it again. You could add in mountains too and do the same thing. If you get to your building, you hop over. You could add in some mountains into this drawing. We could add in a sun or a moon. We could add in some birds. If I wanted to have some birds up close, I could look up online, how do you draw a bird, and I could add in some birds. And I could just continue to add things into this drawing. I would go ahead now and start to look up some things that you want to add into yours to make it unique. I look forward to seeing them.